We're now on Daf Tezayin Amud Beis. We're finishing up with Rav Ashi, and the Gemara is not happy with Rav Ashi. But Bain Ktani. Rav Ashi's understanding does not reflect very well with the language of the Brisa. The Brisa says Bain. Notice the Rishona, the Bain Shnia, Bain Shlishis. Whereas according to Rav Ashi's interpretation to defend Rav, we're not talking about Bain, Bainu, Bain, but rather we're talking about a case where in both the first application and in the second application, he had an explicit machshavas pigul. Kasha. Okay, now we finish with Rav, and let's go back to Rabbi Meir. Omar Mar, we saw that according to Rabbi Meir, there is pigul b'chatzi matir, and therefore, if in any one of the three sets of applications of Hazos in the Pnim, he had a machshavas pigul, that's enough to be mafagel lekarbon. Rabbi Meir omer pigul v'chayovna lekaris. Michti. Let's analyze this. Karis lo machayev ad sheyikruvu kol hamatirim. We have another principle in limiting pigul, which apparently even Rabbi Meir would accept, and that is that all the other avodos have to be perfect. There's one avodah in which he had a machshavas pigul, but all the rest were done perfectly. That's called ad sheyikruvu kol hamatirim. Tiomar Mara, we're going to derive from a pasuk. Yerotze kartzos kosher kachartzos posel. Martzos kosher ad shikru kol matirim. Afatzos posel ad shekrivu kol matirim. So the Torah goes out of its way to say Yerotze to teach me that there's some parallel here between a hartzos psul, which is in that context, and the hartzos kosher. In the hartzos kosher, we need that all four avodos be done perfectly. If one of them is lacking, then the whole carbon entity is worthless, it's in vain. So too, with regard to a machshavas psul, namely the machshavas pigul, all the other avodos have to be done perfectly. So therefore, v'hai, let's take the case of Yom Kippurim, which is the subject of the Brisa, is came de chashiv ba bifnim pasle. Oh, beautiful. The Gemara says that once he starts with the machsheves chutz lizmano machsheves pigul, the dam of the carbon is completely possible. The machsheves pigul will generate a psul in the dam. And therefore, kimidi behechal, maya bi'almahu de kamidi. When he continues the sprinkling the hazos in the second set, the third set, etc., inside the hechal, well, he doesn't have dam of hazor. The dam is already possible. It's like maya bi'alma, the Gemara says, it's like water. Omar Rabba mishkachas le bi'arba porim bi'arba se'irim. Okay, this is a bit complicated, but basically, I mean, just to give you the nutshell of it, what Rab is going to say is that there is a case where you don't limit or undermine the pigul because of the other matirim, and that's going to be the cases of the arba parim and the arba seirim. Because in each set of hazos, in the case of, for example, the dam hapar, or for that matter, the dam hasoyer, if the dam spills on the ground, and therefore the dam is possible, then he'll bring another carbon. And when he brings the other carbon, he doesn't have to start from scratch and start with the applications from the beginning. No need to. He picks up exactly where he left off. So if that be the case, then since he keeps replacing one bull with another bull, one goat with another goat, because of nishpach adam, therefore, on that particular animal, he had a machshavas pigul, where all the other avodas that he did on that animal were kosher. Rava goes even a step further. Afilu tema para echad v'soya echad lipagule meratze. You can have the ritzi of a pigul if he goes through the motions and he does all the avodos. And even though for the matir we need all 43 applications, but nevertheless he does actually do all these applications, and that's enough to generate pigul. Now we have a little bit of a maimar muzgar here, a little bit of a digression. What is the number of hazos on Yom Kippur? So we're now learning Masechta Yoma for a few minutes. We're not learning Masechta Menachos. Arbaim v'shalosh v'atanya arbaim v'sheva. We have another brayso that says there are 47 hazos. Lo kasha. It all depends on another machlokas. When do we arrive to number 43? Keman Diyomer, it reflects that shita that ma'arvin lekronos. Right, there's a machlokas about at what point do they mix the dama par with the dama soyer? Is it before they go ahead and apply it to the four four chronos, right, the four corners of the mizbeach? And then there's a mandiyam who says ein ma'arvin, that no, we're not going to apply the halacha of tarovis, meaning of mixing the two dams, before we go ahead and apply it to the chronos. So that again, what's going to be the nafkamina here? If you hold like the second mandiomer ein ma'arvin, then what you're going to need is an extra four matanos. So the difference between 43 and 47 is 4. Frek Gemara, V'atanya arboim u'shmon. I have another brayso that came up with 48. How do we get 48? Lo kasha. Ha kimandi omer shirayim ma'akvin, v'ha kimandi omer shirayim lo ma'akvin. So with regard to shirayim, usually shvichas shirayim is not a ma'akev, but in the case of chatos hapnimios, in those cases of karbonos that are brought bifnim, there's one mandiyam who says that you have to take the shirayim out of the heichal into the azora, and you have to pour it on the yisod of the mizbeach hachitzon. If you don't do so, the whole carbon is possible. So we have to add, according to that mandiyomar, another hazor which is critical, and that is the number 48, which is the shvichas dam al yisod hamarovi of the mizbeach. The Gemara has a suffix. Pigel ba'olacha ma. What's the halacha of pigel at the time of holacha? Meaning, he takes the komets and he brings it over to the mizbeach, because you have to have kaktoras hakomets. At the moment that he brought and transmitted, is that a word? Anyway, that he, not transmitted, whatever, there's a word that I'm looking for, that he conveyed. At the moment that he conveyed the komets to the mizbeach, he had a machshava of shirayim chutz lizmano. So should we say that if he didn't have a similar machshava when he conveyed the levona to the mizbeach, faktos ha-levona, he only had a machshava at the time of the holacha of the komets, then we're going to apply the principle of ein pigul lechatzi matir. Omar Rabbi Yochanan, holacha kikmitza, which means that according to Rabbi Yochanan, the status of holacha is equal to that of kmitza. Now, if he had a machsheves chutz lizmano at the time of the kmitza, that would be a complete matir and not a chatzi matir. And if machsheves pigul at the time of kmitza is sufficient, which we'll have to analyze exactly how that works, then holacha, which is the culmination of the kmitza, in other words, take the komets after the kmitza and bring it to the mizbech, that also is considered an independent matir, and the machshavas pigul therefore generates pigul. Reish Lakish Amir disagrees. Holacha kaktara. The status of holacha is like that of haktara. And if at the time of the haktaras hakomets, he had a machshava of achilas hashirayim lemochar, that would be a chatzi matir, and ein pigul b'chatzi matir. We're holding like the Chacham of Meir, and therefore the same thing will apply according to Reish Lakish to bringing the komets to the mizbeach, because that is defined as haktara, and we know that if he has a machshavas chutzes at the time of haktara, that's a chatzi matir. So Gemara asks the following: Bishleim, I understand well. Ikonami Reish Lakish, Ikonami holacha dilevona. Right, we understand that since there are two halachos to the mizbeach, there's one halacha on the komets, another halacha on the levona, and therefore each one is considered a chatzi matir. So within the context of the entire halacha, a machshava during the halacha of one and not the other would be ein pigul chatzi matir, and therefore it's not pigul. El Rabbi Yochanan, my timer. Why does Rabbi Yochanan completely disregard the holacha on the levona? And Rabbi Yochanan can't deny that we need a holacha not only on the komets but also on the levona, and therefore again we get into the principle of ein pigul chatzi matir. How could it be that Rabbi Yochanan maintains that if during the halacha of the komets he has machshavas chutzes matter, that would generate pigul, even though he didn't have a similar machshav at the time of halachas halevona? Amar Rava, so Rabbi Yochanan kol avoda she'ena materes avoda chashuvi lefagil olev b'fnei atzma. In other words, amongst the avodos, whether it be zvachim or whether it be menachos, makes no difference. The holacha is not critical. And we discussed this many times, that if they would do the shechita right near the mizbech, there would be no need for conveying the dam to the mizbech. Or in the case of menachos, if they did the kmitza next to the mizbech, there would be no need for holacha. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan classifies holacha as an avoda she'ena materes. And if it's an avodah she'ena materes, it doesn't integrate into the other avodos, but rather stands on its own. So it's a very interesting concept here, because paradoxical, counterintuitive. Because on the one hand, we're saying that halacha is less significant than the other avodos, and yet on the other hand, we're saying that the halacha of ein pigul chatzi matir does not apply to halacha, and therefore, with regard to halacha, we're going to have a pigul b'chatzi matir, because we view the halacha as an entity unto itself, separating it from all the other avodos. Whoa. Okay, we'll give it another 2 minutes. Amalei Abaye. Right, so now we have Rava's explanation and justification of Rabbi Yochanan, and Abaye doesn't like it. Why? Harish chitas echad min hakvasim. Let's go back to Shavuos, and we have the two lambs that are going to be matir the shtei lechem, and he had a machshavas pigul during one of the lambs. Avoda she'ena materes he. So what does that mean, avoda she'ena materes? It means that we're talking about the shechita of one of the two lambs. Now, the truth of the matter is that as far as the imurim that have to be brought on the mizbeach, it's not the shechita that's matir the imurim, but rather the zrikas adam is matir the burning of the imurim on the pyre on the mizbeach, and therefore the status of shechita is that of an avodah she'ena materes. Now you're telling me, Rava, in order to defend Rabbi Yochanan, that any avodah that's ena materes stands on its own. And therefore, it would seem that a machsheves pigul during shchita would effectuate pigul because saravoda she'ena materes, because it's the zrika that's matir, not the shchita. And yet, I'm going to quote to you a Mishnah which records a machlokas between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim. And the Chachamim say that there's no pigul. We had this already in our Mishnah. Or again, another flip case. Rabbi Meir Omer pigul v'chayav l'lakos. Chacham Omer ein bo kares ad shifag b'chol hamatir. Meaning that even the shchita is to be defined as a chatzi matir if he shechs only one of the two kvasim. So why is it that you require that he shech both kvasim with a machshavas pigul? One shchita should be enough because shchita is defined as an avodah she'ena materes, and therefore it stands on its own, and its machshavas pigul generates pigul. So Rava tries to defend himself against Abai's attack. Mi savas lechem b'tanur kadosh shchitas kvasim v'kadsha le. You think that what? That the shtei lechem is sanctified through what's called kiddush b'tanur? No. Shchitas kvasim v'kadsha le. V'abol kaddish k'bol hatir domi. Rava now coins a whole new principle that which is makadesh has the same status as that which is matir, and therefore the matir of the shtei lechem are the shnei akvasim. The shchita, the shnei akvasim, are makadesh the lechem. We thought that what's makadesh the lechem, the afiyah b'tanur. No, what's makadesh the shtei lechem is the shchita of the two lambs. So now we have two matirim because the Gemara now in the name of Rava is upgrading the status of a makadesh to that of a matir. So since we need the two shchitos of the two lambs in order to makadesh the shtei lechem, so that which is makadesh is like that which is matir, and we need the matir, the two shchitos of both lambs. Now, this sugya of Rava keeps going on and on and on. But we have the basics. We'll try to fill in tomorrow. And, if we have Siyat Dishmaya, we'll get through Yud Zayin. But right now, we're a little bit behind, which is okay. That's the nature of Daf Yomi. Okay, then. So I wish you a great day. And tomorrow, I think we meet at noontime. Is that correct? See you then.